Welcome to the Gaming's Greatest Generation podcast, where we discuss news, reviews, and all things video games with your hosts, the OG Leo Holly, the overachiever Mark Lombardi, and Mr. Contradiction himself, Matt Harms. Stay tuned for ways to connect with the G3 community, contribute to the show, or tell us about your greatest gaming experiences. Now, let's get to the show.
Greetings, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the G3 podcast. I caught my crew off guard, and that's the way we're going to go.
She wasn't ready.
Because we said, after we're going live. So welcome once again to another episode of G3 podcast. Once again, this is episode 32. Your host, known as Ice on all things gaming and social media, and I'm joined today by the man of a million recreational trips, Mr. Mark, a.k.a. Snipe90. What's going on, brother?
Hello. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever
you want to regale us with your latest recreational trip? How that went down?
No, not at this time.
Okay, excellent. Glad we can provide good content for the show. And then the man who needs no introduction, but I'll do it anyways, the one and only Mr. Catman, MowThemDown. What's going on, brother?
Good evening, everyone, or at least as we record this on the 25th of March. I am doing fairly well. We're looking forward here in the household, I guess, to adding a new addition of a dog. I'm doing fine. Hope you guys are doing well, and hope the G3 Nation out there are all having a good time.
Once again, y'all should feel very, very humbled that Mr. MowThemDown is going ahead and putting on a good face, because he's having an absolute meltdown right now on the inside. But he's putting on a good face for everybody. So let's get straight into it. What is not putting on a good face is, unfortunately, Gran Turismo 7. So those of you that may be aware, Gran Turismo 7 came out as the new simulated racing exclusive for PlayStation 5. And kind of an interesting predicament. It went ahead, and by the time that the review period came out, the game got pretty well rated. If we were to look on Metacritic, it's in the high 80s. What did we say? 87 Metacritic score. Not bad. Again, we kind of look for roughly 85 to 90 or higher. However, the big conundrum was, in fact, the user score. So normally, one wouldn't really care about the user score, but in this particular case, it was of interest because a lot of folks made the accusation that there was a bait and switch scenario, that Polyphony Digital, the developers of Gran Turismo 7, went ahead and, with the full intent of having a live service game and microtransaction filled game, had it basically clean slate going out before the review period that the reviewers got to play. And then almost immediately after the classical review period was over, there was a patch that came in and basically made things far more difficult to progress. You weren't able to go ahead and buy certain cars or sell certain cars. I'm speaking a little bit, out of turn here because I have not played Gran Turismo 7 yet. However, it's just a bad look. And initially, when these reports came down, the user score was in the range of a 2.2, and it's all over the place. When I looked at it this morning, I believe it was a 1.5. And then today, as we're looking at it during the show, it's a 1.7. So this is unfortunate, that there's a lot of this going on. However, I will say with a little bit of a caveat that there's some review bomb going on, right? I went ahead and I actually translated a Spanish review that someone had put as 0 rating, and they were talking nothing but praise on the game. And they said, this is why I'm giving it 100 out of 100. And I'm like, well, you clearly didn't, because you gave it a 0 score. So maybe there's some nonsense going into there as well. But Matt, more the Forza than the Gran Turismo 7 fan, but a fan of sim racing nonetheless, and definitely not a fan of the always online and microtransaction riddled environment that we're or minefield that we're trying to dodge here in gaming nowadays. Is this something that's disappointing? Do you think they've got a chance of making a comeback? Before you answer, that being said, there actually was a community post by Polyphony Digital where they said they're going to go ahead and make some changes and 1 million credits that they're giving the players. Where are we sitting on this? It's good, bad, and different?
I've got to say, yeah, it's disheartening. I haven't really gotten into Gran Turismo, mainly just because I don't have the system to play it on. But I was very curious to see how this one was going to release and how it was going to fare. Saddened to see that they're just kind of going the way of the new age, I guess. I think PlayStation players are reacting especially harshly because they don't typically or have not typically had to deal with this, from more like first party stuff when it's a big, AAA, launch release or whatever. So yeah, that was one of the things they always lauded over the other side, right? So yeah, I imagine people are probably pretty upset. There's a lot of people talking about being unable to, play the game at all because the servers were down for maintenance and stuff. Yeah, obviously it's upsetting. I think for anybody really. I'm sure that there's a way to turn it around. I imagine they'll be working on at least fixing, server stability or maybe implementing some way to play, single player while you're offline. Uh, as far as the microtransactions, I don't know. That'll be harder to say. I mean, I'd love to see that happen. Do I know if that will happen? No, I don't know.
Okay, cool. And this, I mean, to me, this is definitely something that is hopefully not a writing on the wall scenario because, we've seen or there have been reports previously out of PlayStation that they're planning something like 10 to 20 live service games, online games. So that, is not usually their forte. However, if Gran Turismo 7 is any indication of what those games are going to be like fresh out the gate, it's a little bit of a daunting proposition. Mark, not necessarily the racing fan as far as I knew, but are you concerned at all about the PlayStation trying to take this next step into this always live online environment kind of thing?
I mean, we're seeing it kind of in these newer games, more of like I mean, like, uh, you could like Elden Ring, for example. That technically has an option to be always online. So, I mean, it is becoming not a new norm, but it's a new thing, I should say. I see a lot of, as you mentioned, a lot of goose eggs on the user scores. A lot of people upset, um, about the game itself. I mean, I don't have it, obviously. I don't know if you don't have it, right? Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
I was honestly thinking about scooping it up, and I have not. I think I got GT Sport somewhere on my hard drive, but I haven't really touched that. And I was thinking about grabbing it, but I wanted to hold back because I don't know. I
Yeah,
had I had the Spidey sense going on about this one,
yeah,
so I wanted to wait and see what happened.
yeah. It's been a long-awaited game. I mean, I'm sure the fan base is all excited, and then they get a fistful of this nonsense that kind of upsets them. So I see the frustration. Um, that's like Matt said, very unfortunate for the end consumer. But hopefully turn things around here in due time and gain the trust of the people back.
Yeah, hopefully that will be the case. I mean, I've heard quite a bit this past week and a half or so regarding this whole situation. And some folks are saying, this is no better than GT Sport, that, they basically took a lot of GT Sport mechanics and put it into something that was essentially built as an always online environment. So, or a live service game, if you will. So it begs the question of what we're going to see coming out of PlayStation on that front. However, we have some other great news that came out of PlayStation this past week in the form of a new first party studio. So, Haven Studios, brought about by Jade Raymond, who, if you're familiar, and we talked about Jade and Haven Studios here on the podcast before. So, Jade pretty much cut her teeth in the industry and got her claim to fame by being one of the lead producers in the Assassin's Creed franchise, and we see where that has gotten today. So she's been around the industry for quite some time, went ahead and formed her own studio in Haven Studios. I thought that I had heard something previously about EA trying to court Haven Studios, but apparently that wasn't the case. So this news coming, we're copying it at least, or getting it directly from the PlayStation blog on the 21st of March. PlayStation first party welcomes Haven Studios into the family. So there's a couple interesting pieces here. Let me just read. So this is a statement or part of a statement from Jade. Today, the Haven team begins a new phase of our journey as part of the PlayStation Studios family. Working with Herman, Connie Booth, and the team at PlayStation over the past year has been a career highlight. SIE is a supportive partner that truly understands the creative process and what it takes to make a blockbuster AAA game. They have empowered and encouraged us to bring our bold vision to life and make our dreams come true, and we could not be more thrilled about this opportunity to strengthen our partnership. There's one other piece I wanted to highlight in here. Our first new IP for PlayStation is on track to deliver a AAA multiplayer experience with a vision to build a systemic? That's an interesting way of phrasing that. Systemic and evolving world focused on freedom, thrill, and playfulness that will keep players entertained and engaged for years. So, Haven Studios joining PlayStation, buffering out the roster a little bit more. Matt, I want to say this was a you and me episode where we went ahead and we talked about Haven and what their ambition was for this game. And it sounded almost too ethereal and too out there. Is this something that, again, when we're talking about PlayStation and their evolving franchises, Jade sounds pretty confident that going ahead and working with the first party family over there at PlayStation, that producing a new AAA title will be, relatively easy, as easy as game development can be. Is this something that we're looking forward to, though, when we're talking about, a systemic and evolving world?
I mean, those are intriguing concepts, I guess, so yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting to see. We did talk about this previously, and yeah, their ambitions sounded pretty damn lofty. The fact that it's PlayStation that they're partnering with actually kind of throws me off a little bit, because although PlayStation may have, made them a really good offer, who knows? I don't know. But it sounded like what they were trying to do, and still kind of sounds like what they were trying to do, or what they are trying to do, is going to be something that I would think would rely heavily upon, cloud structure, really solid, infrastructure to take advantage of, to be delivering this, evolving, ever-changing play space or whatever. I believe that was the Terabyte game or what? I don't even remember what. But yeah, I mean, is Sony going to be able to deliver that for them? I don't know. But I guess they may have to partner up with somebody in a big way. We'll get to that later. But but yeah, I don't know, man. I'll keep my eye out for it. I'll be interested to see what happens. But is it going to turn into another? Oh my god! Now the name is going to escape me. Man. Nope. Whatever Ubisoft title that originally came out, the first one came out on Xbox or whatever, and then we all saw that trailer forever ago, and then we've all just been waiting, and it's just kind of been quiet because
Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that might be what we're in for here with this, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say to that comment, like, I saw that Beyond Good and Evil 2 trailer, and for those at home, maybe we'll go ahead and we'll get to play a little bit of that here, impromptu on the show. But that being said, I was thoroughly impressed with that, and I thought it was highly ambitious. So yeah, I mean, if Jade and Haven Studios can go ahead and produce something like that for PlayStation, brava. I mean, that would be absolutely fantastic.
But if and when, right? Like,
yeah,
I haven't really seen much of Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Well, and that being said, don't count them out though, right? Because we saw, what was it, 2 years ago, that PlayStation signed a deal, or Sony proper signed a deal with Microsoft about being able to use Azure to bring some of its services to the forefront.
Right.
So, Mark, I mean, you've been out of the PlayStation game for a little bit, so to speak, but is this something that might bring you back in? systemic, evolving world, a terabyte game, something to sink your teeth into for hours and hours and hours, Mister. I like my game 12 hours long.
No, not yet. Still sticking with my Microsoft Nintendo for now. Like Matt said, I'm curious to see exactly if and when they produce something you know that shock. It's mind blowing. It's like you beyond good and evil. Like you guys said, like it's curious. This the acquisition happened with Sony, like Matt said. Um, I would suspect Microsoft, because they're Microsoft, but maybe they're just trying to scoop up the little guys and try and make something happen. Like a dying need sort of deal. So.
He looks like he's really getting into it too.
Might want to cut it right there, Leo. I don't think he realizes.
No, me neither.
Well, you guys could say I was muted, like that's all you got to do. Anyways, that's my bad.
Man.
All right. Anyways, so we're keeping that in the show. Apologies, everybody. Apparently, I got too excited and my mute button was a little trigger happy. So I will say though, repping for the team over here, PlayStation Camp. I will say that I don't recall a time when PlayStation has gone ahead and been notorious for canceling games. Maybe notorious for going ahead and announcing games years ahead of when they're actually available to the consumer and the gamer. But I'm not familiar with many titles that they've said, yeah, no, that's not a good idea, or at least that they don't publicly acknowledge. So that that's something in their favor at least. So with PlayStation going ahead and being notorious for throwing however much money is necessary, and being the notorious ones to say that a Game Pass type thing is unsustainable because these games cost so many millions upon millions to make, maybe they've got that walled garden and that defense to go ahead and throw that money at something like, again, using the comparison of a Beyond Good and Evil 2 type situation. That being said, moving into our next piece of news that we are scrubbing from IGN, this pretty much blew up the socials today, as far as I could see when I was getting ready to drive home. Apparently, someone got word, and actually, come to think of it, we probably should have cited Bloomberg because the notorious Jason Schreier, who is investigative reporter when it comes to games journalism, went ahead and has cited that Project Spartacus. So, for those trying to play keep up, PlayStation's effort to go ahead and combat Game Pass, which they're calling Project Spartacus, is supposed to have multiple tiers at different price points and offer different benefits to each price point, may actually be announced as soon as next week. So to me personally, this isn't really a surprise, especially when a lot of the previous reports we heard said, hey, Spartacus is going to be announced in early 2022. What's more early than Q1 2022? So if they were to go ahead and announce it next week, and then, oh, by the way, it's going to become available literally starting in April, it seems like a really good way to jumpstart spring and get ready before the summer season. And, potentially kids, gamers are out of school to possibly go, Mom, Dad, maybe with my own, money that I that I trim the lawn, I can go ahead and use some of that money to subscribe to this Spartacus service. Is this something that, I mean, we talked about the price points here, and I think I went kind of at length on it on that one episode where we discussed it. But Mark, you and I had discussed it. Are you think this is going to happen? Are we excited about it at all, or we're just kind of like on pins and needles waiting to see the actual announcement?
I'm gonna wait till the actual announcement. I will say, like you mentioned, if anything were to reel me back in, it would be them having access to PS1, 2, and 3 titles like in one spot, like that's what really, may try and get me to get a PS5 one of these days, just to do all that stuff. But I do enjoy going back on my Switch on these older titles and having it all in one place. So if they can do that, uh, they might sell me on it. But I'm waiting for the actual release.
Now hold on, Mark, because you can already do that with PlayStation Now, right? You can have access to these backlog catalog games from the PlayStation service. So what's different about this one, or what do you think is different about this one
I
that would
I
sell you on
I
it?
think it's going to be more of a revolving door sort of deal. So like you have access to these amount of titles, or kind of like Game Pass. Stuff comes and goes. So I feel like that's going to be more of their spiel here.
See, and that I'll tell you, I hear you, and that's the exact thing that terrifies me because that is the one thing I will preach to the rafters that I love about PS Now is they go ahead and they add stuff. It's not very often that I see they take stuff out of PS Now, or at least they don't advertise it. You can look back at PS1, PS2, even some PS3 games in there, and they've stayed in there. So that's partial to how they boast that they've got. I think it's something stupid like over 800 games in there. I could be wrong, but it's a lot of titles that are available for play in there with a lot of reach back. Matt, is this something that's going to possibly sell you on getting a new PlayStation?
I don't know. We'll have to see what all the features are. As we've discussed previously, like it thus far without all the full details on the scheme, it sounds like you might be paying more for what you're already getting. So yeah, I don't know. I do also agree. I don't know all the details on the various things that are available now. So like, is it all just first party titles that get added to the subscription thing, where you can access the older titles or whatever? Because that would make sense. And then yeah, you wouldn't really need to remove those, or hopefully not. I kind of agree that if it's mainly just first party stuff, yeah, hopefully they wouldn't start taking stuff down. But that might be part of the scheme too. So I don't know. It's it. I'll wait until details are revealed, I guess, before I make final judgment. But got some concerns.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can speak for all of us where the linchpin, the thing that can make or break the reception of this service, day one game releases, specifically day one first party game releases. I think if they can do that, if they can chant, "Hey, God of War Ragnarok, day one on Spartacus," like, and they continue with that kind of drumbeat, that is probably something I would actually then think twice about. I think I've been very vocal that like I'm not jumping on board, not at the price points that they've mentioned. It almost seems like I'm getting stuff taken away from what I currently have with PS Now, or excuse me, with PS Plus specifically. But yeah, I would imagine that the day one game releases, however lofty they've gone ahead and made that the statements about that, would probably be the thing that would make or break the droves of folks subscribing to said service. Mark, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I was gonna I was also gonna say like it helps if they had abundance amount of you know e- exclusives for the day one releases, but yeah, that's just for the UPS guys.
Exclusive. Matt, those day one releases, that going to sell you?
I mean, that it certainly wouldn't hurt.
All right, cool. So with that, we are going to get ready to take a quick break here. Remember, folks, you're listening to G3 Podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, feel free to go ahead and hit that like, maybe consider subscribing. And if you're listening to us on the audios, there should be some type of rating service available. Please, it only takes a couple seconds. You can mute us during our little interlude here. Take that opportunity to give us a rating on what you like, what you don't like. Feel free to contact us in the comment section or via email and say how we're doing. Maybe give us a voicemail that we can bring on the show. All right. With that, we'll be right back.
Heard something you liked? Maybe you want to showcase a great gaming experience? Or perhaps you just want to share a laugh with the crew. Join the Discord by using the link in the show notes. We look forward to you being part of the community.
It's brought to you by Ginger Ale.
It's delicious.
And with that, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. So we were talking about the news. We got some more news to cover. So we're pretty much done talking about PlayStation side of the house. So we're going to move over to the green team. And with that, we are going to actually let Matt take the lead on this one, talking about some new, little bit of rivalry maybe between Microsoft and Amazon with regard to cloud servers. Matt, why don't you let us know, what's the latest in the happenings?
Well, shockingly, as one might imagine, both companies have a lot of cloud service offerings, and they're trying to entice game developers to come on over to their side of the fence to make use of their products. They're trying to bring developers in, teach them more about how to use, all of their various services, implement the cloud into their games to make those terabyte games and games with evolving worlds all the time. I still can't believe Haven with the PlayStation. Anyway, yeah. That's why Sony has, tried to partner up with Microsoft so that they can get access to, a big stable, farm of servers. And that's pretty much where things are going. You're going to need that for any kind of streaming that you're doing of, large information, or if you're trying to stream content, then you're going to have all that stuff available for people to access all the time. So, yeah, they're hitting the market hard, trying to get people in. Not too surprisingly, I guess, but those are the major players. And no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, excellent. So yeah, Microsoft and Amazon, as you said, hitting the pavement pretty hard. The big reason why this news came out is because GDC, Game Developers Conference, was this past week. I actually meant to mention it on our last show, but of course we ran through so many things that we maybe neglected to bring that up. There's a couple things out of GDC, some more of which we'll talk about here a little bit later. But Mark, when we're talking about Microsoft and Amazon with Azure versus AWS, who's going to win? No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to put you in that type of position.
I was going to just let him have it.
Okay, go ahead. Who? Bring it. Who got it?
I feel like there's no contest.
Okay, but who?
Microsoft.
Okay.
I feel like they have more of a stronger relationship with the developers, and then of course having an on-premise offering. I mean, it's a more lucrative approach for them long term, and having the gaming background, it's the move for them. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably agree with you on that one. Not to forget,
Papa Phil wants to care for his kids.
But not to forget, though, AWS being, Amazon's web services platform, has been around for even longer than Azure, as I can recall. And then on top of it, AWS has a lot of inroads with general commercial business, right? So especially when you're talking about merchandising and stuff like that. So when you look at it from that perspective, Amazon offers a very competitive edge vis-a-vis being able to reach out and touch people, so to speak.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I could say they're more on the cloud end, yes, but they have this year just dipped their toes in the water in the gaming area with the their cloud streaming services, what they're doing these days. So
with Amazon Luna and a couple of the games that they've introduced, right? Yeah. So also then on the other side, Microsoft's initiative, which was in the planning stage, and just to due diligence where it needs to be. Microsoft and Amazon, that report we got out of The Verge. Matt, did you want to capitalize on that a little more?
Yeah, just had one maybe counterpoint to offer there, in that Amazon's got quite a huge infrastructure for web servers. they also have a very huge network for actual distribution of content. Uh, and they're, they own Twitch or whatever. So if you're trying to get your game out there, and really market it or whatever, then they've got a solid ability to offer you that. So yeah, really, I feel like it would definitely be up to what the incentive was, what the offer is, but I don't know. I could see that potentially being an attractive offer.
Okay, cool. So all we need is Microsoft to buy Google, and then we're good, right? It's only just one monopoly versus the other.
I
It may
that'd be
happen.
a lot of money, but
All right. So also happening at GDC this week, Microsoft, in part of that pitch to go ahead and support game developers coming over and utilizing Azure, they actually announced ID at Azure. So the idea being it is a, we've seen ID at Xbox, and that is essentially a developer friendly tool to allow more indie titles to make their way onto the Xbox, and they have their whole kind of support ecosystem that goes ahead and allows developers to be their best selves and most creative selves, but also helps them with some development kit tools, etc. So ID at Azure, not a whole lot different. It's designed to entice the independent game developers to build specifically for the cloud services. Now, this one kind of threw me off when I saw and read about this. And again, this is a continuance from The Verge and over onto Windows Central. But I find it interesting because I get it. We saw, and maybe this is just me, and maybe I'm biting off on the wrong thing, right? But the biggest promise that we saw with utilizing the cloud for games, short of maybe Microsoft Flight Simulator, which has been a pretty good example, the initial example that I think most of us saw, which I think most of us recall how that went, was Crackdown 3, right? And the use of the cloud and how that was supposed to help with destruction of buildings and the environments and everything. And is it that way today? Maybe not. So I think there's some give and take with regard to usage of the cloud stuff. Matt, when we're looking at ID at Azure, is this something that's a promising development? Do you think we're going to see a lot more indies get their shine through utilizing this program?
I mean, I hopefully, hopefully in a good way. I mean, obviously Microsoft wants to, get the product out there and get people to, funnel that revenue back up through them somehow. So yeah, I don't think it's a terrible thing at all. They want to be able to ensure that more content is coming onto the platform. I can't imagine these developers don't want to, kind of learn how to integrate that into their games if they're potentially looking to, I guess aim higher than maybe what they're currently doing. So yeah, I think it's a cool thing. Uh, I guess I don't really know that there's any real downside to any of it. So yeah, no, I think it's a good thing.
Okay, and Mark, do you think ID at Azure is this something that we're going to get more Microsoft Flight Simulators or more Crackdown 3s?
For the love of God, please, no more crackdowns. So Flight Simulator,
Titanfall
yes.
used all the AI to,
I mean, I
or
did
the
enjoy
servers to run the AI.
Titanfall. I think I played Crackdown 3 for like a minute.
2 minutes,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, I was like, what? What is this? So, like the Gran Turismo guys, I feel their pain with that one. But, uh, yeah, it's,
Oh, that's rough.
yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, a lot of these people are, coming out with these popular titles, and people are grabbing onto them and want more. So why not?
And so to be clear, like Azure's not necessarily just a one and done cloud service that goes ahead and at least here where we're talking about ID at Azure, it's being intended to go ahead and help developers almost cradle to grave, go ahead and produce a game that is just going to go directly into the cloud. But that doesn't always need to be the case. And so some examples that were cited here, again, from our Windows Central article of titles that utilize Azure in some form or fashion. You got Dirt 5, Doom Eternal, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Halo Infinite, Rainbow Six Siege actually takes a part of that. No Man's Sky is No Man's Duh, because that game is huge. And so there's got to be, aside from the procedural generation, some cloud services in there. And even Sea of Thieves, and that's just to name a few. So, hopefully this will go ahead and present more opportunity for the game developers than it will, necessarily shoehorning them in. But I guess, that's what we're going to see. If it pans out well, then who knows? I find it kind of interesting because ID at Xbox doesn't necessarily have its own place in the house of Xbox, if you will. If we look at the pantheon of all the studios that they have, all that kind of falls under Xbox Global Publishing. So reason to believe that tile, if you will, when we look at all the studio titles in the list of those in Microsoft first party, Microsoft Game Studios first party, maybe ID at Azure is going to buffer that Xbox Global Publishing out a little bit more. But something that will hopefully buffer out the console itself, or maybe frame rates in particular, is Fidelity FX Super Resolution. So if you're familiar, this is an AMD technology. It was essentially built to contend with or be a competitor for the initial versions of DLSS, which I can't remember what that acronym stands for off the top of my head, but it was NVIDIA's solution to go ahead and try and get more frame rates out of your game, essentially up-res the game from, let's say, a 1080 to a 1440p or 1440p to a 4K. So this is AMD's answer to it. And now because both both Xbox and PlayStation are built with AMD system on chips as part of their main motherboard and central processing units, what we're seeing here is now Xbox is apparently being announced, this, at least out of PC Gamer announcing this, is the first one out the gate to go ahead and include this Fidelity FX Super Resolution, which is supposed to really buffer those frame rates and make it seem like an even faster resolution than what the console would standardly be capable of. So Matt, is this something that you're trying to get your teeth into the PC world right now? Is this something that is, you're happy to hear about it now that you got your Series X?
Yeah, no, I'm psyched. I think that this is going to really help to enable, a more complete next gen experience, if you will. This will definitely help to boost them up over the last gen of consoles. There's a lot of quality of life stuff with like the Series X or whatever, but jumping up from the One X, I mean, it's not, obviously as monumental as like prior generations were one to the other. And that's going to happen, as we go on. But this should help a lot. This should, allow at a minimum, I would assume, a 4K 60 experience essentially may not be rendered natively at that, but it'll be upscaled in a way to where, super nitpicking aside, you're not going to really notice, allow for maybe, more effects to be implemented or whatever, or higher detailed, higher resolution effects to be included, upscaled up. So, and all at a crisper frame rate. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's great. So yeah, I'm actually really super excited. I've been waiting for it. So here we go. Yes. Also, I believe that was deep learning super sampling.
Thank you. Yeah, deep learning super sampling, taking advantage of onboard AI on the graphics processor to go ahead and, like we said, basically improve on the image. Now, you and I, as you mentioned, we both upgraded from the Xbox One X to the Xbox Series X, so we may not have seen that big of a generational jump. Mark, however, you went ahead and you went from the Xbox One S,
Mm-hmm.
and you got a Series X. So is this something? Did you see that big of a a generational jump? And are you looking forward to FX Super Resolution coming to the console?
Yeah, I am definitely looking forward to that. I did see I mean, I was like flabbergasted, and you guys are like, "Oh yeah, it's like old news
Mark
now."
Mark
But
still
like,
needs to get a 4K TV, but
yeah, well, I'm playing on my monitors, so I can't get the full
true,
4K
true.
experience yet. Um, haven't got that LG yet. Super OLED, whatever you guys post all the time. But yeah, but I'm having fun with the Series X so far. I'm looking forward to some newer titles to throw on there and get some good graphics.
Get some graphics though. Yeah. So I mean, understandably, to my knowledge, and I'm not going to even claim to be subject matter expert, but when we're talking about the FX Super Resolution, that is, well, I guess there's two different technologies. I can't think of the other one right now, but so yeah, Super Resolution is supposed to be the competitor, like we said, for DLSS to almost upres things where the other tech, which I can't recall off the top of my head, actually increases the amount of frames, if I'm right. And yeah, that's another AMD tech. I'll probably go ahead and find it somewhere and either drop it later in the show or save that for next show. But
I
what
would
we're
I
go
would
ahead.
be curious about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to double check what it was called. I'll probably find it here in a minute while we get ready to take our break before we move on to the next topic. So with that, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this.
Want to contribute to the show? Maybe you want to try your chances at a question being aired? Give us a call at 702-690-9292 and you might find yourself so lucky.
All right, gamers, and welcome back. So we got done. We're done talking about the news. We're done smoking and joking, whatever the heck is going on over here during the breaks. You guys don't even want to know. But what we are also unfortunately done with is GDC 2022. So again, GDC being the Game Developers Conference, this is where tons and tons of developers from around the world come and congregate and talk things about tech, both in kind of what they're working on, but they get to learn about what others are working on so that they can go ahead and see kind of where the industry is going forward. There's some keynotes and all sorts of stuff. We wanted to talk about keynotes, but it was a busy week for everybody. And so instead of going ahead and delaying this beautiful content from you guys, we said, F it, we're going live. So that being said, something we did want to highlight out of GDC, however, was they have their own Game of the Year awards. So again, when we look at the Game Awards, the TGAs, those run and basically look at games that came out from realistically when the Game Awards are aired the year prior to. There is a cutoff period. I want to say it was somewhere in November. I believe it was late November, and this is a slightly different animal. So GDC goes ahead and runs their Game Awards basically year round as well, but from when they go ahead and have their awards. Anywho, but not belaboring the point anymore. There was a couple of great titles that were noted in here, and without going through, I guess we could take a moment to go through it. So we had, excuse me, best debut was Iron Gate Studio for Valheim. Best visual art was Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart by Insomniac Games. Best audio, Unpacking by Witchbeam under Humble Games. The best narrative, Psychonauts 2 by Double Fine Productions. Social Impact Award, Boyfriend Dungeon by Kit Fox Games. Innovation Award, Unpacking, again by Witchbeam. Best Technology, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, again by Insomniac. Best Design, It Takes Two by Hazelight Studios. Audience Award, Valheim by Iron Gate Studio. And then the Game of the Year, was, according to GDC and their developers, was Inscription by Daniel Mullins Games
Take
and
that.
published by Digital Devolver. Or Devolver Digital, excuse me. They also had the Ambassador Award went to Steven Spoon, who, if you're familiar, he is a disabled gamer and really advocates on a number of different nonprofit fronts for disabled gamers get involved in the entertainment medium. And then the Lifetime Achievement Award went to Yuji Horii, who has been involved in a number of titles, including Dragon Warrior Monsters, Dragon Quest VIII, Chrono Trigger, just to name a few. He's big into the RPG space out of Japan. So all that to say, Inscription went ahead and kind of, I mean, surprisingly to me, got Game of the Year. Mark, what do you think as the resident Inscription expert and deep diver? Is this something that was a surprise to you, or is there anything else on this list? Yeah. Is there anything else on the list that kind of caught your eye?
No, I'm just touch base on the. I haven't beat it yet. I'm kind of slacking. But for those who don't know, it's a deck building, escape room style puzzle, psychological horror game. So,
It's
has a lot going on.
Slay the Spy. Oh,
Slay the Spy.
No.
It's completely different. But yeah, I have a lot of fun with it so far. I encourage people to pick it up where they can. It is still pretty cheap, I believe, like $20 or something. You'll definitely get your money's worth, Leo. But yeah, pick it up. Have fun with it. But yeah, I'm not surprised.
So Matt, you had to kind of tuck tail on this one because It Takes Two did not win this time. But are you giving it up to Inscription? Were there any other awards? What are your thoughts on GDC as a whole? You think they had some good choices here?
I mean, congratulations, I guess, to Inscription. I'm still happy with It Takes Two taking Best Design, so good for them. Think the nods to Ratchet and Clank and Psychonauts 2 were cool. It was nice to see. Valheim, I've heard great things about as well, and people seem to really be enjoying that for a debut title. I think that's done very well, so I think that seems like a legit pick. Yuji Horii, I believe, was actually the creator of the Dragon Quest series, so that
I believe so.
That would, I believe, be more maybe the claim to fame, if you will. So yeah, I mean, some good picks. I'm not hating on anything. Can't say I'm familiar with, Boyfriend Dungeon, and Unpacking. I have yet to play either, but might check that out at some point. It's on the list. So.
Yeah, cool. And as Mark mentioned, Inscription on Steam has overwhelmingly positive reviews, and as we're looking at it today, it's $20 on there. If you, Steam's not your poison, then you can head on over to Epic Game Store, and it is currently on sale there for $13.99. And yeah, so
even better.
It's got 98% critics recommend, and it's a mighty open critic rating. So yeah, definitely, a good game, as our resident player has gone ahead and affirmed. And so if you get the opportunity, maybe think about going and checking it out. Moving on into kind of our last discussion piece here. So there was some patch notes that came out earlier this week for PS4, PS5. And, a lot of these were stuff that, here we go again, you're wondering why this is just now coming out now in 2022, but it was stuff particularly about parties, and there was a couple things of user interfaces. Still no opportunity to do folders like we got with Nintendo this week. I didn't think that necessarily warranted us having a huge long discussion about it, but yay, you can get folders on your Nintendo Switch now. But so this kind of pinged an interest level. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Trust me, it's a big deal.
Yeah, but this is I can now on my Switch go ahead and segment all the Nintendo proper games from the indie shovelware that I constantly buy on there with my gold coins. But so the patch notes and everything that came out with PlayStation brought about kind of a interesting piece to me, and I say that in the sense of we go ahead and we look at all the next gen proper games, right? The stuff that you can't, in theory, get to play on last gen. So on the Xbox side of the house, we really don't have much there. You're talking Microsoft Flight Simulator, which you can still play via the cloud. And that's about it. And when you look on the PlayStation side of the house, I believe we've got two games, a whole two that are PlayStation 5 exclusively, that being Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart and Returnal. Excuse me, three. We also have Demon Souls, right? So please don't at me. Again, I'm repping the team as well. But here's my question, guys. So do we really need next gen consoles yet? With everything that's been going on, obviously we have kind of the evolving situation right now that is the supply chain concerns, and the developers can't get these consoles out fast enough to the people that want to get them. But is there really reason? I mean, shoot, we just had on PlayStation side of the house, Horizon Forbidden West come out, and that is both PS4 and PS5. And Sony has even announced that God of War Ragnarok is coming out on PS4 and PS5. So is there really justification to go ahead, if we're talking to our more thrifty gaming crowd out there, is there really justification to go ahead and get a new console right now that we have been fortunate enough to go ahead and get our hands on our own? Let's start with Mark. Mark, what do you think?
I'm probably the worst person to ask that. You know me, I need the latest and greatest, and I need all the things. So, I mean, of the three, I was the last to get the next gen, and I got it just because the games coming out on the Series X that I couldn't get on the PC. So, to me, it was I wouldn't say a necessity, just more of a keeping up with the times, I guess. It was overdue, so I was more inclined to get it. But yeah, it's to me, it's just like any other electronic. Just gotta swap it out every couple years.
So Matt, are you going ahead and keeping up with the Kardashians? Do you feel so inclined to go ahead and just swap out your electronics because the newest and greatest has hit the shelf? Or is there really justification to get a new gen console right now?
Honestly, I mean, I kind of wanted to get in just for the quality of life improvements. Thankfully, with the performance you're getting at the price point, it's not bad. I felt like it was a fair transaction. But as far as like a must buy absolutely right now kind of a thing, I'm not convinced on that. But admittedly, that is part of what makes it so difficult, I guess, is the fact that there is, by and large, kind of that sentiment that's lingering out there. It still kind of goes back to, Microsoft and PlayStation trying to one up one another and doing the whole, One X and PS4 Pro thing. That put them in a really awkward position. Now the generation cycle's been kind of uprooted. And of course, neither of them have been able to really push them as hard as they wanted because of, all of the chip manufacturing shortages, excuse me. So yeah, that everything's kind of been disrupted. I think you'll probably see that start to even out at some point here in the future. Microsoft's been selling a lot of those Series S's though, and those aren't going to hold up for a long, long time. I don't really know exactly how it's all going to work out. The FSR thing should probably help. And then more, I guess, adoption and reliance upon the cloud will probably help to offset a lot of that as well. But yeah, as of right now, I mean, if you're still rocking the old, OG Xbox One, I mean, you might do yourself a favor and upgrade or whatever, I mean, the Series S is, $300 or whatever. And I mean, it probably going to give you a lot better experience. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any huge rush. I mean, it depends on what you're into. Sony's, I guess, had some decent stuff come out. But again, now that they're starting to push stuff out on PC, if you got a PC or whatever, Yeah, hard to say. Also, man, I would love to do an aside. You do that whole Epic Store and Steam Store thing in there. We'll figure it out. G3 After Dark. But yeah, no rush. But if you got some expendable cash and can actually find a new console, why not? Same as any other kind of, I guess, piece of entertainment. But
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I'm gonna say, my take on it is I think it depends, right? If you were in the camp that you had a PS4 Pro and all this, so again, it was kind of hitting me from two different directions. Looking at the patch notes that they just pushed for the PlayStation side of the house, but also I overheard a conversation at work where someone was talking about wanting to get a PS5, and someone literally said, "Nah, man, I got a PS4 Pro. Like, it's not that much better. I'm going to go ahead and just hold on to it until they drop the price or it becomes more available." And that was profound to me that somebody said that, because all you see on social media is, all this, quite frankly, bullshit talk about ratio and, all the, all the RAMs and the speeds and the this and the that. And so I found it interesting to hear from an actual human being that was like, nah, I can wait. I'll go ahead and I got my PS4 Pro. And so, I had kind of already sat on that fence. And I told myself the same thing, that, yeah, it depends. I agree. If you had an original Xbox, the VCR, for lack of another. And if you don't know what a VCR is, kids, go look it up. But if you had the VCR and then you want to upgrade to a Series X, 110% do it, because or even the Series S, you're doing yourself a favor. But if you had the Xbox One X, like we did, I agree. Like, there's some improvement, but it's not monumental. It really is more quality of life, at least right now. Maybe when we see more Unreal Engine 5 games in the future,
yeah,
that
right.
may be
Yeah.
a
Well, and
different thing.
that's kind of what I was alluding to previously, and I apologize for cutting you off there, but like, that's one of the things you always kind of deal with the whole generational thing. And since they kind of screwed themselves over and messed up the timing of the cycle there, it's kind of thrown everybody off in the consumer base as well, because the the smaller the amount of people that adopt into the new generation, you kind of do have things being held back where, okay, well, now we have to develop games for both. So you can't really make something that's going to require, something that maybe like max. Of course, I don't know, man. Xbox kind of did a silly thing with the Series S thing, in my opinion, because that again continues to split even your current generation, to where, okay, well, rather than make a game that's going to maybe offer a crazy experience, but is going to max this thing out, well, we can't do that because we have to, include the other end of the spectrum there on the hardware side. So, yeah, I don't know. It's always a hard thing to say. I'm not telling anybody how to spend their money or anything, but
Yeah, and I think that's the beautiful thing. We're not, we're here because we are the avid gamers. We're definitely in with the core crowd. So I think we can just speak to our experiences, our knowledge, and yeah, just give some opinion piece on it. That's essentially what we're doing here in this section, just giving an opinion. But yeah, to finish out what I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted. That, yeah, I would concede that also. If you had a baseline PS4 moving up to the PS5, probably not a bad idea. If you had the PS4 Pro, like I also did, there's some improvements. But here we go again with the quality of life things, being the user interface. The DualSense controller is a huge improvement, and it definitely allows you to involve yourself in the game. A lot more immersion can come out of that. But that being said, again, there's not a whole lot of titles. I have yet to experience Ratchet and Clank, but I'm told Ratchet and Clank is the one that makes the absolute best use of that DualSense. So we'll see. We'll see. I might get my hands on that soon, and I can finally rub it in Mark's face and tell him what a great game it is. But anyways, let me go ahead and we'll wrap up the show here right after Release Radar. You guys thought we were getting away from that, but we're not. So here on the 25th of March, we'll just bang these out real quick. So you got Ghostwire Tokyo that's releasing today on PlayStation 5 and PC. We got Kirby and the Forgotten Land on Switch coming out on the Nintendo Switch. Let's see, Tiny Tina's Wonderland's coming out PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and PC. And on March 29th, so that should be coming up Tuesday, Crusader Kings 3 on PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series consoles. WRC 10 coming out on Switch on the 29th. Aerial Knights Never Yield on iOS and Android coming out on March 30th. Death Stranding Director's Cut coming out on PC. So here we go again with all you on Steam and Epic. And whatever other client, I don't know what Matt was trying to get at, whatever other PC client you decide to use. Coming out on March 30th. We also have Moss Book 2. So that's PlayStation VR coming out on the 31st. And rounding out the month, we've got Weird West. That's good. That one looks kind of interesting. Coming out on PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series console, Xbox One, and PC. And then that's it until we get into April, and we'll save that for later. But gentlemen, let's start with Matt. Anything you want to chime in there you find super interesting or you can't wait to get your hands into?
Well, I'm very curious to see how Ghostwire Tokyo does. It's not something I'll have access to upon release, but I assume it'll be coming my way eventually. So definitely curious to see how that one pans out. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, I know that one of you is super excited for that, so I'll be, I guess, curious to see your impressions on that. Maybe it's another one I can add onto the list of, reasons to maybe go ahead and finally get a Switch.
I'm probably going to buy it tonight. I haven't had a chance. I'm probably going to buy it tonight.
Mine downloaded already.
I know that Mark has been dying for Tiny Tina. I don't know. I guess we'll see how we all feel about that. Crusader Kings 3. Played a little bit of that on PC. If it's something that appeals to you and you want to, spend a year straight playing a game, then this one's for you. Coming to Game Pass, so I'm sure I'll download it and play it a little bit on my Xbox. Not a bad list there. We'll see what happens. But no, I was not alluding to some other storefront or whatever. We can get into something later if you want or whatever. We'll figure it out.
Oh my God, G3 After Dark, guys, hang on and hold tight. Mark, so Matt kind of stole your thunder. Kirby and the Forgotten Land on Switch. What else might you be looking forward to on that list, if anything?
So I pre-order that stuff, so it is currently downloaded. So I'll boot that up tomorrow. See how that goes. It should be good. Should be fun. Tiny Tina's. I was waiting for reviews on that. I haven't bought it yet. It kind of reminds me of the old Borderlands, so I had fun with that. So I'll check the reviews, sit back, relax. I'm not going to play it anytime soon anyway, but, something I'll pick up in the near future. Maybe it'll go on sale, we'll see. Other than that, wait till next week. I'm not gonna spoil the title, but we'll cover it next Friday. What we've all been dying and waiting for. But I think you know what I'm talking about. But we'll save it for the listeners next week.
Triangle strategy? No, okay. As for myself, I'm probably gonna join Mark and go ahead and get my hands on the Kirby and the Forgotten Lands for Switch because
put it in that new release folder in your Switch.
Yeah, there you go. Set up a new release folder and just drop it on in there. Other than that, I'm not gonna lie, nothing else in here truly stands out to me. Death Stranding Director's Cut. So slight disclaimer there. I will say I have been interested. I saw, I have at least an understanding of the social commentary around Death Stranding. I never got into the game initially. Like it didn't sell me. And again, we talk about it all the time on the show. The backlog beatdown is tremendous. So I'd be interested in getting into the director's cut with some of the stuff, improvements and everything they talked about in the game. But then it hurts because I want to see Spartacus or PlayStation proper just do something more with PC. Put a launcher out there, something, because I don't want to play something on PC that I could work on my trophy count. Speaking of working on trophy count or achievements, gents, let's round out the show. Mark, what you've been doing, what you've been playing, where can people find you? all that good stuff.
Well, of course, you can find me here on the G3 podcast. Maybe some G3 podcast after dark. We'll see. But other than that, catch me on the old Xbox, of course. Snipe 90. PC games, not too much lately. Doing the whole work thing. Family, of course. But finding time for you gents and our viewers. So yeah, not much going on.
All right, cool, Matt. Why don't you take it away? What you been doing? What you been playing? How busy has your week been?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us all about it.
Busy, yeah. Getting ready for this dog and stuff. Haven't had a whole lot of time to play, but where I have, I've been kind of stuck solid to that Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy game. I made it through to the end, beat that. Was stunned to find that there's a new game plus mode, so might start that up, try and get me some more achievements. Otherwise, at some point, trying to get back to Elden Ring. I believe the game Mark was referencing is going to be the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga or whatever, so that's on the horizon. Got to try and get ready for that, I guess. But yeah, otherwise,
Spoiler alert.
yeah, that's right. Not doing a whole lot otherwise. So I don't know. Hoping to get back into it after we kind of adjust with the new changes. But yeah, I'll be
All right.
around.
Cool. And as for yours truly, known as Ice on all things gaming and social media. So, kind of like these gents, it's been a busy week for me. I thought I was going to get a whole lot more gaming than this week, and I did not. I did last week, kind of gaming related, not necessarily. I did watch Free Guy with my wife. I'm not gonna lie, I was actually pretty impressed with that movie. Like, I think in many regards, Ryan Reynolds is so
Your man crush. Oh.
there.
he's got quite a comedy, like just anything he's in, he has some sort of comedy.
His
Yeah,
comedic timing and delivery of
yes.
stuff is
Yes.
very solid. Yeah, he's
I
a
just
funny
get a
dude.
little. I just get a little concerned. I don't want him to become another Kevin Hart. Where like no matter what role he plays, it's still Ryan Reynolds. So
Kevin Hart,
luckily,
I mean, he definitely kind of has that thing going. He can, do a little more range and stuff. I don't know if he's done a whole lot of real serious movies or anything, but I
he
don't
definitely
know that
did.
I would find him incapable.
No, he definitely did. There was oh god, it's gonna kill me. There was a horror movie that he did a while ago that was really
he's been
really good.
in a decent
He's been in quite a few.
amount.
But
Hitman's
anyways,
Bodyguard was good.
yeah,
I've seen that with Samuel
I
L.
did
Jackson.
see that.
I haven't, and I'm sure it's probably entertaining enough, but is Ryan Reynolds anybody other than Ryan Reynolds in that film?
Yeah, and that's kind of that's kind of where we're going. Anyways, to get back on the gaming front though,
It's the same as The Rock or a lot of
by
other
the
actors. I
by
mean,
the by the talk of it, maybe you guys want to hang out after we wrap up the episode because apparently we're going to have our first G3 after dark. But to get back on the gaming talk again, I didn't unfortunately get to play a lot this week. I did dive into Tunic, and wow, so that game is just it feels great. It is not exactly what I anticipated. So I heard a lot of allusions and similarity calls to like what you guys are experiencing in Elden Ring. Like, just be ready to die quite a bit until you figure out the mechanics and figure out how to play against these enemies. And there's no real tutorial or anything. It's you go ahead and you unlock these like almost like Nintendo Power pop-ups throughout the game that they look old school and they kind of show you like how to do some mechanics, but there's not really English language in there. It's just Pictionary, if you will, and it's interesting to say the least. But I thought I wanted to play the game because it was cute and had some good mechanics, had some good bones, if you will. But it is turning out to impress me, and I want to keep picking it up and getting back into it. I did. I think I mentioned last week I went ahead and finished my platinum in Spider-Man for PS5, so I kind of like slowly finishing the DLC for that. That being said, I've already finished it on the PS4 version, so it's not really, super high on my priority list. And I've also been playing where I can more of Sackboy Big Adventure with my wife. We're getting to the point where we can almost get to that very end game. So we'll see. That may be my next platinum coming up here soon. But with that, yeah, that's pretty much all that I got to play this week. So, anything else that you guys wanna chime in on before we wrap this up?
We didn't touch. Well, you guys haven't watched it, so
Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
I'll put it a little. I'm not
It's
putting
unlikely
spoilers
that
out
I'm
there
going to check it out.
because next it comes out every Thursday, so we're gonna be two episodes behind. But no spoilers. But I will say it's very bloody, which is interesting for Halo. Has nothing to do with the games or the books. Hour-long episode. I didn't know that until I started watching. But first half of the episode, it's kind of slow, and then it kind of rolls into the unfolding of the story. It's completely different than what people of the franchise are used to. I will say that. The voice actor, I say was it Pablo Schreiber? Is that am I saying that right?
Okay, I think Schreiber. I think
Schreiber. Sorry. It's weird hearing him talk. I'm used to, everyone's used to Steve.
I'm the Master Chief.
Yeah. It's a little odd. It's hard to get used to, but other than that, that's it for episode 1 without any spoilers, I should say.
Yeah, cool. We did kind of breeze over that one. I was almost debating having that in G3 After Dark, but so anywho. So that's going to wrap it up, guys, for episode 32 of Gaming's Greatest Generation podcast. We hope
thanks for listening.
You will consider liking and subscribing.
Smash
go ahead and give us some votes. Give us some ratings. Let us know how you guys really
get
feel
some
about
comments
the show,
going.
right?
We're always listening. We're always looking at the comments section.
We do. So we actually have
replies.
had some first comments. So it was pretty interesting, getting into that. So we are.
Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah, we are pretty active, and we're trying to stay involved. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll see. Maybe stick around, and we might get into a little G3 After Dark, only for the adults. Let me just preface that, right? Only for the adults. So that being said, remember, guys, tune in next week, and Gaming's Greatest Generation is the one you guys are a part of.
Thanks for listening to the Gaming's Greatest Generation podcast. We hope you enjoyed your time with us today. If you have any feedback for the show or would like to contribute ideas, feel free to call 702-690-9292 or email us at gamingsgreatestgeneration@gmail.com. You can also join the Discord